Hello there, my name is Payal Naraine and welcome to this video series. यहाँ हम कवर कर रहे हैं पूनम दलाल दहिया की एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल इंडिया की थर्ड एडिशन, जो कि लेटेस्ट एडिशन है। इस किताब को हम थ्रूली रीड करेंगे और जहाँ ज़रूरत पड़ेगी वहाँ हम साथ ही साथ यूपीएससी एंड स्टेट सर्विसेज में आए हुए प्रीवियस ईयर के क्वेश्चंस भी डिस्कस करेंगे। एंड इस सीरीज़ में वीडियोस लगभग 30 to 35 मिनट्स के होंगे, बट इफेक्टिव होंगे। और हम ऑलमोस्ट 40 to 45 लेक्चर्स में ये पूरी किताब कवर करेंगे। और अगर आपने ये सीरीज़ 3 to 4 टाइम्स देख ली तो बिल्कुल ये किताब आपके दिमाग में छप जाएगी एंड ट्रस्ट मी, आपकी एक्यूरेसी भी काफ़ी इंक्रीज़ हो जाएगी। साथ ही साथ आपका रिवीजन भी काफ़ी आसान हो जाएगा। सो अगर आपको रिवीजन के साथ साथ वैल्यू एडिशन भी करना है तो ये सीरीज़ पूरी फॉलो करें। आपको बस आपके पास ये किताब रखकर मुझे सुनना है एंड मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स मार्क करने हैं। सो विदाउट एनी फर्दर डिले, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। हेलो देयर, वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल घटना सूत्र। यहाँ हम कवर कर रहे हैं पूनम दलाल दहिया की एंशिएंट एंड मेडिवल इंडिया की थर्ड एडिशन, जो कि लेटेस्ट एडिशन है। और हम शुरू कर रहे हैं मेडिवल इंडिया। सो लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। अर्ली मेडिवल इंडिया, द एज ऑफ रीजनल कॉन्फिगरेशन 600 to 1200 CE. The term early medieval denotes the intermediate transition period between the ancient and the medieval. The early medieval period in India is marked by feudalism, political fragmentation, and the formation and proliferation of various states at regional level. This period in South India especially is viewed more as a period of segmentary statehood, wherein the role of king was diminished and he acted more as a ritual head, neither having any firm revenue, infrastructure, or a standing army. For simpler understanding, the period from 600 to 1200 CE can be roughly classified into primarily two phases, different for the North and South India respectively. Kindly note that in order to ensure simplicity, the period of classification does not adhere to a specific time span, but just presents a rough idea for conceptual clarity. For instance, in order to ensure continuity among various kingdoms, the period from 600 to 750 CE may include kingdoms after 750 CE too. अब बिफोर वी मूव अहेड, आप एक चीज़ पे ध्यान दीजिएगा। जब भी हम टाइम स्केल के बारे में बात करते हैं, लाइक विच किंगडम एग्जिस्टेड ड्यूरिंग विच टाइम पीरियड, सो मार्क दिस इम्पॉर्टेंट, स्टार मार्क दिस। रीज़न बीइंग, इसके ऊपर यूपीएससी एंड स्टेट सर्विसेज में कई बार सवाल पूछे जा चुके हैं, राइट? कि ये किंगडम कौन से समय में एग्जिस्टिंग था, या यू मे फाइंड मैच द पेयर। क्योंकि अगर आपको ये टाइम फ्रेम याद रहा, सो इट विल बी ईजी फॉर यू टू एलिमिनेट सम रॉन्ग ऑप्शंस, राइट? सो ध्यान दीजिएगा कि इस समय में साउथ इंडिया एंड नॉर्थ इंडिया में कौन से किंगडम्स या कौन से स्टेट्स एग्जिस्टिंग थे। सो स्टार मार्क दिस, एंड वेर एवर यू फाइंड द टाइम स्केल और कोई किंगडम के बारे में बात हो रही है, so mark it important, right? So let's get started. The period from 600 to 750 CE in North India was dominated by Pushyabhutis of Thaneswar and the Mukharis of Kanuj, whereas correspondingly the period from 600 to 750 CE in South India included three major states, that of Pallavas of Kanchi, Chalukyas of Badami and Pandyas of Madurai. So now we know 600 to 700 के बीच में नॉर्थ इंडिया में कौन से किंगडम एग्जिस्टिंग थे? पुष्यभूतिस ऑफ थानेश्वर एंड मुखारीज ऑफ कनौज। एंड साउथ इंडिया में पल्लवास ऑफ कांची, चालुक्याज ऑफ बदामी एंड पांड्याज ऑफ मदुराई. The period from 750 to 1200 CE in North India can be further divided into two phases. Phase 1, 750 to 1000 CE. In North India, this phase was marked by the age of three important empires: Gurjara Pratiharas in North India, Palas in Eastern India, and Rashtrakutas in Deccan. Phase 2, 1000 to 1200 CE. This phase is primarily known as the Age of Conflict all over the country. There was a breakdown of the tripatriate power into many smaller kingdoms. For instance, in northern India, the Pratiharas empire disintegration brought to the forefront various Rajput states under the control of different Rajput dynasties, such as Chamanas, those are Chauhanas, Chandelas, Parmaras of Malwa, and so on. These states eventually fought and resisted the Turkish attack from the northwestern India led by Muhammad Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori in the 11th and the 12th century, but had to yield ultimately as they failed to stand united against the invader. This section will be dealt with in the next chapter. Period from 850 to 1200 CE in South India saw the supremacy of Cholas. Even though India was politically divided during these years, this era added a new and rich cultural element in the field of art, literature, and language. In fact, some of the best specimens of temple architecture and Indian literature belong to this period. Now here you can see, remember this as a mind map. ठीक है, North India में from 600 to 1200 CE, it is differentiated into two parts. Phase 1, 600 to 750 CE, we have Pushyabhutis of Thaneshwar and Mukharis of Kanuj. For phase 2 में 750 to 1200 CE, it's again divided into two parts. So 750 to 1000 CE में we had Pratiharas, Palas and Rashtrakutas. And 1000 to 1200 CE में there were other smaller regional kingdoms. Whereas in South India, 600 to 1200 CE, it's divided again into two parts. 600 to 750 CE, we have Pallavas of Kanchi, Chalukyas of Badami, Pandyas of Madurai, and then again 850 to 1200 CE, we have Cholas. So remember this, remember the time frame and the kingdom existed उस time frame में, ठीक है? And here you can see the map जहाँ पे कौन सा kingdom कौन से area में existing था. You will be able to see this on a map. जैसे कि if you go south, यहाँ पे Cholas है, we have Cheras, Pandyas. Deccan में we have got Rashtrakutas. Then in the eastern India we had Palas and so on. Period from 600 to 750 CE, northern India. Pushyabhutis of Thanesar. As we have discussed earlier, until the middle of 6th century CE, the Gupta Empire had provided stability to the northern India, especially modern-day Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, for about 160 years. The decline of Gupta Empire had, however, resulted into splitting of northern India into several kingdoms. Since the 5th century CE onwards, Kashmir, Punjab and northwest India had come under the sovereignty of the White Huns, whereas from the middle of the 6th century CE, north and western India was ruled by different feudatories of the Guptas. An important ruling family to gain prominence after the fall of Guptas was the Pushyabhutis, who had their capital near Thanesar, near Kurukshetra, Haryana. Two major historical sources which provide information regarding the Pushyabhuti dynasty are the Harsha Charitra, a biography of Harsha written by Harsha's court poet Banabhatta, and travelogues of the Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang. Not much is known about their first three kingdoms of the dynasty, and most likely the dynasty came into prominence with the accession of Prabhakar Vardhana, who was able to defeat the Huns and strengthen his position in the region of Punjab and Haryana. अब before moving ahead, आप यहाँ पे ध्यान दीजिएगा, whenever we are reading something, ठीक है, अगर किसी बुक के बारे में मेंशन किया जाता है और वो बुक किसने लिखी गई है, तो मार्क दिस इम्पॉर्टेंट टू, स्टार मार्क दिस, वेरेवर यू सी दिस, हाईलाइट दी पोर्शन आपके बुक्स में भी, ठीक है. सो लाइक इन केस अगर आपको क्वेश्चन आते हैं यूपीएससी एंड स्टेट सर्विसेज एग्जामिनेशन में रिगार्डिंग द राइटर्स और जो उन्होंने बुक्स लिखी है, ठीक है, सो इट विल बी ईजी फॉर यू टू मार्क द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. Now let's start. Pushyabhutis, original feudatories of the Guptas. Prabhakar Vardhana, around mid-6th century CE. Fourth kingdom of the dynasty, who actually laid the foundation of Pushyabhuti dynasty. He was a great general in many military victories. He established important marital alliances with the Mukharis of Kanyakabuja, Kanauj, their neighbors to the east, by marrying his daughter Rajri to the Mukhari ruler Grahavarmana. After his death, his elder son Rajavardhana came to the throne, but he was treacherously killed by Shashanka, the king of Gauda, that is Bengal and Bihar. Harshavardhana. And before we start with Harshavardhana, right, इनके टॉपिक को आप ट्रिपल स्टार मार्क कीजिए. रीज़न भी क्योंकि ये अलग अलग स्टेट सर्विसेज में कई बार इनके ऊपर सवाल पूछा गया है, साथ में इसके ऊपर यूपीएससी में भी सवाल आए थे, राइट. सो दिस मेक्स इट हाईली इंपॉर्टेंट, सो मार्क दिस इन योर बुक्स टू and revise it over and over again by watching this video again. आप इसे 2-3 बार देख लेंगे and you will be through with the subject, right? Harshavardhana, 606 to 647 CE. He is known as the last great Hindu king of India, who was originally a Shaiva but also supported Buddhism. to a greater extent and made generous endowment to Buddhists. He is popularly known as Harsha and was described as the Lord of the North. Sakala Uttara Pathana tha. Rajavardhana had succeeded Prabhakar Vardhana initially. However, Harsha succeeded his brother when Rajvardhana left the reign of governance in the hands of Harshavardhana, as he had to undertake campaign against the ruler of Malwa, Devagupta, and Shashanka, ruler of Gauda, who had imprisoned their sister Rajshri and killed her husband Grahavarman. He defeated the Malwa army and killed Devagupta, but was unfortunately killed by Shashanka, who also cut the Bodhi tree and occupied Kanauj. It was under these circumstances that Harsha then ascended the throne. He was only 16 years of age at that time, but he still proved himself to be the great warrior and able administrator. He immediately marched toward Kanauj and rescued his sister Rajshri, who was believed to be on the verge of committing sati. Kanauj subsequently came under the sovereignty of Pushyabhutis. Later, he also defeated Shashanka and extended his control over the part of Kongora in Odisha. Now here you can see Prabhakar Vardhana and Rajshri, who is imprisoned, then Grahavarman, ruler of Kanauj, murdered by Devagupta, ruler of Malwa, and Shashanka, ruler of Gauda, Bengal. Rajavardhana defeated the Malwa army and killed Devagupta, but was killed by Shashanka. Then Harshavardhana. Harshavardhana drew away Shashanka from Kanauj. Harsha's reign was marked by many military victories, and he brought most of the North India under his control, as he brought the 5 Indies regions Punjab, Kanauj, Bengal, Odisha, Mithila, and assumed the title of Siladitya. As mentioned in travel record of Chinese traveller Xuanzang. So अब जब भी आप आगे पढ़ेंगे, if somebody ask like in any examination अगर ये पूछा जाए कि ह्यूनसांग किसके रेन में आए थे, so you'll remember कि वो हर्षा के रेन के टाइम आए थे इंडिया, right? He was victorious against the ruler of Sindh in the northwest and also defeated the Vallabhi king Dhruvasena, as mentioned in Nausasi copper-plate inscription. However, he was defeated by Pulukesin II, Western Chalukyan king of Badami, on the bank of Narmada. Pulukesin II bestowed the title of Sakala Uttara Pathanatha, meaning Lord of the entire North, upon him. Harsha's empire probably included Thanesar, Kanauj, Achichatra, Shravasti, and Prayag, and he extended his empire into Magad and Odisha. The capital of Harsha was originally Thaneshwar, but later he shifted it to Kanauj. The Narmada formed the southern boundary of his empire. In the east, the king of Kamrupa, Bhaskara Varman, and Dhruva Bhatta accepted his overlordship, while in the west, the king of Vallabhi also did the same. The forest tribes of the Vindhya too regularly paid tribute to Harsha and also helped him with a military support. Some of the subordinate rulers who had the titles such as Samantha Raja used the Harsha era, 606 CE, which was the year of accession of Harshavardhanas. The Chinese pilgrim Hunsang, who is known as the Prince of Travelers and author of Siyuki, visited India during 629 to 644 CE. He earned Harsha's friendship and left a vivid account of the beauty, grandeur, and prosperity of Kanauj. He gives a detailed account of grand assemblies held at Kanauj in 643 CE, which was attended by the representatives of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, in which Xuanzang, along with others, gave discourses on Mahayana doctrine. This grand conclave was also attended by various subordinate kings, including those of Vallabhi and Assam. A huge tower with a golden statue of Buddha was constructed on this occasion, which was later worshipped by Harsha himself. He also used to celebrate a solemn festival at Prayag, Allahabad, at the end of every 5 years, and also held Mahamoksha Parishad at Allahabad. The image of Buddha, the sun, the Shiva were worshipped, and gifts of valuable articles and clothing were distributed in charity. Harsha was a great patron of art and learning. He was very talented himself, as it is believed that he wrote a 3 drama, Priyadarshika, Ratnavali, both romantic comedies, and Naganada, based on Bodhisattva Jimutvahana. So like star mark this and highlight this in your book. Like अगर आपको ये सवाल पूछा जाए which books were written by Harsha, as we have already discussed कि कभी भी किसी बुक का नाम हो तो आप उनके राइटर के बारे में ज़रूर जानें, and at times what is written in that book is also important. He also has to his credit a work on grammar and two sutras work. It is presumed that he himself composed the text of two inscriptions, Madhuban and Bansekra. They contain his signature and exhibit his calligraphic skills. According to Banabhatta, he was also an accomplished flute player. He established a large monastery at Nalanda. Banabhatta, author of Harsha Charitra and Parvati Pranaya. So Banabhatta wrote two books. He authored Harsha Charitra and Parvati Pranaya. Highlight this in your books too. Mayura, authors Mayura Shataka. Renowned grammarian Bhartrihari, authored Vakapadiya and Matanga Divakara, were accomplished writers at his courts. Highlight this and star mark this, like authors in Harsha's court and what books were written by them. He had diplomatic relations with the Chinese as his contemporary Tang Emperor sent 3 embassies to his court. The last of these, under the Wang Chung-se, came to India in 647 CE when Harsha was no longer alive. The death of Harsha was followed by a period of political confusion that continued up to the 8th century, when the Gurjara Pratiharas and the Rajput ruler emerged as the big foes in the northern India. Administrative and social life under Harsha, like triple star mark this, क्योंकि इसके ऊपर UPSC में 2004 में सवाल पूछा गया था, UPPCS में 1990, 2012 and 2007 में, whereas in BPSC में 2015 and 2003 में भी इसके ऊपर सवाल आए थे, right? Harsha governed his empire on almost the same lines as Guptas, except that his administration were more feudal and decentralized. The leading feudatories of Harsha were Bhaskara Varman and Kamrupa, Dhruva Bhatta of Vallabhi, Purna Varma of Magadha, Udita of Jalandhara. He had the support of large army, which was also supplemented by contributory forces from feudatories in the time of need. The army consists of infantry, cavalry, chariot and elephant. The power shifted to military camp known as Sakandavaras. Land grant to the priests in lieu of their special services continued, and it is generally presumed that the land grants to the officer by charter in lieu of their salary probably begin with Harsha, as evidenced in the lesser number of coins issued by Harsha. These grants contains the same privileges as enjoyed by Brahmadeya land. The maintenance of public record was another salient feature of Harsha's administration. Nilupittu referred to the archive of the Harsha period and was under the control of special officers who maintained the record of both good and bad events in it. There was a sharp economic decline as compared to the Gupta period. As evident from the decreasing number of coins, decline of trade centers and fewer activities of merchant guilds, due to the decline of trade and commerce, handicraft and agriculture were also adversely affected. Hyun Sang stated that the people were taxed lightly and revenue were divided into 4 parts. One part earmarked for the king, second part reserved for scholars, third part for the endowments of official and public servant, fourth part for religious purpose. Harsha personally supervised the administration, and according to the record of Hyun Sang, he divided his day into 3 parts, attending to administrative duties during the first and devoting himself to religious work during the other 2. He used to have frequent tours of inspection around his kingdom. However, law and order suffered some from Lec-1 as inferred from the travel statement of Hyun Sang, wherein he states that he was robbed as well. The law of the land was serve One part earmarked for the king, second part reserved for the scholars, third part for the endowment of official and public servants, fourth part for religious purpose. Harsha personally supervised the administration, and according to the record of Hyun Sang, he divided his day into three parts, attending to administrative duties during the first and devoting himself to religious work during the other two. He used to have frequent tours of inspection around his kingdom. However, law and order suffered from some leukemia as inferred from the travel statement of Hyun Sang, wherein he stated that he was robbed as well. The law of the land was severe and generally robbery was considered as second only to treason, for which the right hand of robber was amputated. Hyun Sang condemned the trial as barbarous and superstitious, but later it appears that the influence of Buddhism, the severity of punishment was mitigated and criminals were punished for life. Brahmana and Kshatriya were reported to lead a simple life, but the nobles and the priests led a luxurious life. The Shudras were generally agriculturists and their status improved as compared to the past. Earlier, they were meant to serve the other three Varnas only, but they could now pursue agriculture independently. However, the state of untouchables such as Chandalas continued to be pathetic, and they suffered from all forms of disabilities. The position of women was not good due to the prevalence of sati and dowry system. Remarriage of widow was not permitted, particularly among the higher caste. Hyun Sang mentioned three ways of disposal of dead: cremation, water burial, exposure to the woods. The forest guards were known as the Vanapalas, and the chief of all the villages was an officer called Sarvapalapati. Hyun Sang pointed to the disintegration of the Buddhist sect into 18 sects. However, Nalanda emerged as the greatest center of Buddhist studies and had a huge monastic establishment. After Chinese traveler Yijing Aising also visited India in 670 CE and lived for 10 years at the Nalanda monastery. He described that Nalanda was supported by the revenue of 200 villages and there was around 3,000 students on its roll. It had an observatory and a great library and attracted scholars from various parts of the world. The brick temple of Lakshmana at Sripur with its rich architecture is another legacy of Harsha period. The term of literary heritage, besides Harsha himself and his biographer Banabhatta, other literary figures who adorned the courts were Matanga Devakara and the famous Bharatrihari. Highlight this in your books too, please. Who was a poet, philosopher, and a grammarian? The Maitrakas. The Maitrakas were the tributary chief of the Guptas, who established an independent kingdom in western India ruling over Saurashtra and Gujarat. Dhruvasena was the most important ruler of Maitrakas, who was a contemporary of Harshavardhana and was married to his daughter. Hyun Sang tells us that Dhruvasena too attended Harsha's assembly at Prayag. The Maitrakas developed Vallabhi as their capital, which was also an important center of learning besides the Arabian Sea. Being on the Arabian Sea, it was also a port town having flourished trade and commerce. The Maitrakas continued to rule until the middle of the 8th century when Arab attack weakened their power. Mukharis. The Mukharis were also subordinate ruler of the Guptas and used the title of Samanta. They ruled over Kannauj, a city in western Uttar Pradesh, which gradually replaced Patliputra as the political center of northern India. Harshavardhana's sister Rajshri was married to Grahavarmana. As we have discussed earlier, Shashanka, the ruler of Bengal, Gauda, and Devagupta, the ruler of Malwa, jointly attacked Grahavarmana and killed him. After the successful expedition of Harshavardhana, the kingdom of Kannauj was then merged with that of Pushabhutis, and Harsha shifted the capital from Thanesar, Kurukshetra to Kannauj. The Mukharis are also mentioned in Patanjali's work. Harivarmana Mukhari, mid-6th century, had assumed the title of Maharaja. However, the extent of his kingdom is unknown. Advaita Varmana. He had succeeded his father and is said to have assumed the title of Maharaja. Ishan Varmana, 554 CE. the real founder of Mukhari supremacy, and assumed the title of Maharaja Dheeraj, according to Asirgarh copper plate inscription. The Mukhari kingdom had stretched to Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Gauda under his reign. The Andhra king, defeated by Ishan Varman, may have been a member of Vishnu Kudin family. Ishan Varman had to face opposition from the later Guptas, and they started a prolonged struggle with the later Guptas. He had to suffer crushing defeat at the hands of Kumaragupta. He is remembered in history for the resistance offered to the Huns, resulting in the defeat of the Huns. The Mukharis possibly fought with the Huns as feudatories of Baladitya, of the imperial Gupta family. The Harsha inscription claimed that Ishanavarman had also defeated the Sulikas. The seal and the coins of this ruler indicates that he was a learned person, a just ruler and a brave warrior and a patron of education. Sarvavarmana, 560 to 585 CE, probably the son of Ishanavarmana, who succeeded the throne after his father's death. Sarvavarmana did maintain his hold on Magad and kept the later Guptas under subordination. The Asigra inscription in Nimar district of Madhya Pradesh narrates his victory over Damodar Gupta and described Nimar as Mukhari's outpost in the Deccan. In the time of Sarvavarmana, the later Gupta created no trouble. Avanti Varmana, 558 to 600 CE. The Nalanda seal showed that Sarvavarmana was succeeded by his son Avanti Varmana, who also took the title of Maharaja Dheeraj and extended the boundary to the kingdom by transferring the capital to the historical city of Kannauj. It was under him that the Mukhari Empire reached its peak. Grahavarmana, around 600 CE. He succeeded Avanti Varmana and was married to Rajshri, the daughter of Prabhakar Vardhana of Pushabudhi family of Thaneswar. Grahavarmana was killed by Devagupta of the later Gupta lineage. Gradually, the Mukhari family disappeared into obscurity. The period from 600 to 750 CE, southern India. As we have seen earlier, the period from 300 to 750 CE marks the second historical phase in the region south of the Vindhyas. It continued some processes from the first historical phase, but it is also different from the first historical phase, 200 BCE to 300 CE in many respects, such as first historical phase, 200 BCE to 300 CE. The major kingdom were of the Satavahanas, the Cholas, Cheras and the Pandyas. Whereas in second historical phase, 300 to 750 CE, three major kingdoms of the eras were of the Pallavas of Kanchi, Chalukyas of Badami and the Pandyas of Madurai. First historical phase. The period was marked by the appearance of numerous craft, internal and external trade, widespread use of coins and a good number of towns. Whereas in second historical phase, trade, towns and coinage declined in this phase. However, there was more expansion of agrarian economy. First historical phase. The period offered patronage to Buddhism, as is evident in the extensive Buddhist monuments in both Andhra and Maharashtra. Cave inscriptions also pointed to the existing of Jainism and Buddhism in the southern district of Tamil Nadu. Second historical phase. There was more emphasis on Brahmanism and more instance of Vedic sacrifice by kings. Jainism was restricted to Karnataka. The culture of megalith paved way for the temple construction. First historical phase. The epigraph were mostly written in Prakrit, whereas in second historical phase, Sanskrit became the official language of the peninsula and the most characters were prepared in it. Deccan. Before we move ahead with this topic, आप इसको ट्रिपल स्टार मार्क कर लीजिए क्योंकि इस टॉपिक के ऊपर मल्टीपल एग्जामिनेशंस, स्टेट सर्विसेज एग्जामिनेशंस में और इवन यूपीएससी में भी इसके ऊपर सवाल पूछा गया था, राइट? सो highlight this, triple star mark this in your books too. Deccan, the western Chalukyas of Badami. As we have discussed earlier, in the northern Maharashtra and Vidarbha, Berar, the Satavahanas were succeeded by the Vakatakas. The Vakatakas were followed by the Chalukyas of Badami, who played a prominent role in the history of Deccan and South India for about 200 years from the beginning of the 6th century CE. The Chalukyas were a maritime power They set up their kingdom in the western Deccan with the capital of Vatapi, modern Badami in Karnataka. Along with the Chalukyas of Badami, who were primarily called the Western Chalukyas, there were two other branches of the lineage who ruled independently, the Eastern Chalukyas of Vengi and the Chalukyas of Lata. The Western Chalukyas, in order to acquire legitimacy and respectability, claimed Brahmanical origin as Haritiputras of the Manavya Gotra. The founder king of the dynasty was Pulakesin I, who established the independent power of the dynasty. Pulakesin I, 535 to 566 CE, the founder of the kingdom with the capital of Vatapi, Badami, Karnataka, performed a number of Shorot sacrifice such as Ashwamedha. Kirtivarman I, 566 to 598 CE, Pulakesin I's son, who further enlarged the kingdom and defeated the Kadambas of Banavasi near Mysore and the Mauryas of the Konkan and Nalas of Bastar area. Mangalesha, 598 to 609 CE. After Kirtivarman's death, a war of succession broke out between his brother Mangalesha and the nephew Pulakesin II, in which Pulakesin II emerged triumphant. Pulakesin II, 610 to 642 CE, the most powerful and the famous king of this dynasty who achieved many military success. His eulogy was written by his court poet Ravi Kirti in a whole inscription. Mark this in your book too. Like, who wrote Pulakesin II's eulogy? Was written by the court poet Ravi Kirti. और ये हमको कहाँ कौन सी इंस्क्रिप्शन में पता चला? अहिहोल इंस्क्रिप्शन में, which describe his victories against the Kadambas of Banavasi, Alupas and Gangas of Mysore. He also led expedition against Eastern Deccan Kingdom, Southern Kosala and Kalinga, contemporary of Harshavardhana, and defeated him on the bank of the river Narmada. He thus acquired the title of Dakshin Pateshwara, Lord of the South, and Parmeshwara. Sent embassy to the Persian king Khusro II. The reception of this embassy is depicted in Ajanta caves. Hyun Sang visited his kingdom and he described that even though Pulakesin II was Hindu, he was tolerant towards Buddhism and Jainism. He had conflict with the Pallavas of Kanchi and annexed the region between Krishna and Godavari, popularly known as Vangi, from the Pallavas, and placed it under his brothers Vishnuvardhana, Chalukyas of Vengi and Eastern Chalukyas. Thus, the first expedition against the Pallavas, who were at the time ruled by Mahendravarman I, was complete success. However, the second expedition against the Pallava proved to be a complete failure, as King Narsimhavarman of Pallava dynasty killed Pulakesin II and adopted the epithet of Vatapikonda. The Badami Chalukya dynasty went into the brief decline following the death of Pulakesin II due to the internal feuds. Badami was occupied by the Pallavas for the period of 13 years. It marked the beginning of long-drawn political struggle between the Pallavas and Chalukyas that continued with ups and downs for more than 100 years. Vikramaditya I, 655 to 680 CE, succeeded in pushing the Pallavas out of Badami and re-established authority over the whole kingdom. He not only defeated successive Pallava ruler but also captured their capital Kanchi. Vikramaditya I took the title of Rajmala, meaning the sovereign of the Malas or the Pallavas, also defeated the Cheras, Cholas and Pandyas. Vinayaditya I, 680 to 696 CE. Then we have Vikramaditya, 696 to 733 CE. His 37-year rule was prosperous one and is widely known for his prolific temple building activities. Vikramaditya II, 733 to 743 CE. The Vatapi dynasty was at its peak again during the rule of the illustrious king Vikramaditya II, who is best known for his repeated invasion of the territory of Tondai Mandalam and his subsequent victories over the Pallava king Nandivarman II. He thus avenged the earlier humiliation of the Chalukyas by the Pallavas, and in order to commemorate his victory, got engraved in Kannada inscription on the victory pillar of the Kailashnath temple. He is also known for benevolence towards the people and the monument of Kanchipuram of Pallava capital. During his reign, Arab intruders of the Umayyad Caliphate invaded southern Gujarat, which was under Chalukyan rule, but the Arab were defeated and driven out by Pulakesi, a Chalukyan governor of Navsari. He later also overran the other traditional kingdom of Tamil Nadu, Tamil country, the Pandyas, the Cholas, and the Cheras, in addition to subduing a Kalabhara ruler. Kirtivarman II, 743 to 757 CE, last ruler of this dynasty, was also defeated by Rashtrakuta king Dantidurg. Thus, Chalukyan ruler came to an end in about 757 CE, and one of the feudatories, the Rashtrakuta, came under the prominence. So that's all for the day, and in the next lecture we'll start with the administration and social life of Chalukyas. So keep on watching Ghatna Sutra. See you next time.